The first thing I saw when I stepped out of my truck was a bright yellow sign that read, "Reserved parking, HOA members only. Violators will be towed." I stared at it for a long time. Because that sign was planted in the middle of my land. 5 years ago, I had left town with nothing but 2 suitcases and a broken heart. My father had just passed, leaving me 12 acres of scrubby, overlooked land on the edge of town. At the time, it felt like a burden. The property taxes were low, the area undeveloped, and I needed distance, from the memories, from the grief, from everything. So I locked the old gate, kept paying the taxes online, and left. 5 years later, I came back successful. Not flashy rich, but stable. Confident. Ready to build something meaningful on the land my father had loved. He used to call it, our future lake house spot, even though there wasn't a lake within 30 miles. As I drove down the familiar dirt road, my stomach tightened. The gate was gone. The fence was gone. And in their place, fresh asphalt, neatly painted white lines, 30 parking spaces, a landscaped island with decorative shrubs, and a bold wooden sign with the logo of Oak Ridge Meadows Homeowners Association. For a second, I genuinely wondered if I had taken a wrong turn. But no, the old oak tree at the corner was still there. The crooked bend in the dirt road matched perfectly. Even the large rock my dad once hit with his tractor was still half buried near what used to be the fence line. This was my land, and someone had paved it. I parked along the edge of the lot and stepped out slowly, like I was walking into a crime scene. Cars were neatly lined up, SUVs, sedans, one shiny red convertible. At the far end of the lot stood a brand new clubhouse for the HOA neighborhood next door. Oak Ridge Meadows. 5 years ago, it had been an empty construction site. Apparently, while I was gone, it had become a manicured suburban dream. And they had decided my property was part of it. A woman in oversized sunglasses and a pastel blazer marched toward me before I even reached the middle of the lot. "Excuse me," she called out sharply. "You can't park there unless you're a resident." I looked at her calmly. "I'm not parking. I'm looking." "Well, you're trespassing on private HOA property." I almost laughed at the irony. "Actually," I said, pulling the folded property deed from my jacket pocket, "this is my land." She blinked. Then she smiled the kind of smile that's rehearsed in front of a mirror. "I'm Karen Whitmore, president of Oak Ridge Meadows HOA. And I can assure you, this parking lot was legally acquired and approved by the city 3 years ago." "Interesting," I replied, "because I've been paying property taxes on it for the past 5. Her smile twitched. Within minutes, she had 2 board members beside her, one nervous-looking man clutching a clipboard and another woman already filming me on her phone. Karen crossed her arms. "If you continue to disrupt our residents, we'll have no choice but to call the police." "Please do," I said. She didn't expect that. The police arrived. I showed them my deed, the parcel number, the tax receipts. They radioed dispatch. The officer's expression shifted from casual to concerned. "Ma'am," he said to Karen carefully, "the county records show this parcel belongs to him." Karen's voice sharpened. "That's impossible. We purchased it from the developer." "What developer?" I asked quietly. Over the next week, the truth unfolded like a badly written soap opera. The original developer of Oak Ridge Meadows had gone bankrupt midway through construction. In the chaos, boundary lines had been adjusted on internal HOA maps, but never legally changed with the county. Somehow, my fenced-off land had been absorbed into their plans on paper. Instead of verifying ownership, the new HOA board had simply assumed it belonged to the development. They paved it, striped it, and used it, for 3 years, without permission, without contact, without so much as a letter. When the HOA's attorney finally reached out to me, his tone was polite but strained. "There appears to have been a clerical misunderstanding," he said. "A clerical misunderstanding doesn't pour asphalt," I replied. "They offered to purchase the land at market value from 5 years ago. I declined. Then they offered current market value. I declined again. You see, it wasn't about money anymore. It was about respect. About the arrogance of an HOA thinking they could redraw property lines because it was convenient. So I hired a land surveyor. Bright orange stakes appeared around the entire parking lot within days. According to the official survey, 100% of the parking lot sat squarely on my parcel. The HOA meeting that followed was explosive. Residents packed into the clubhouse. Karen stood at the front, red-faced but composed. "This individual," she said, pointing at me like I was a criminal, "is attempting to dismantle a community asset out of spite." I stood slowly. I'm not dismantling anything. I'm reclaiming what's mine. Murmurs filled the room. One resident stood up. Wait. So we've been parking on someone else's land this whole time? Another chimed in. What happens now? I answered plainly. You have 30 days to vacate my property. Karen slammed her hand on the table. You can't do that. We'll sue. You can try, I said. But adverse possession doesn't apply when the owner continuously pays taxes and never abandons the property. Her attorney whispered urgently in her ear. She went quiet. 30 days later, I returned. The lot was half empty. A few cars remained, likely belonging to residents in denial. Construction crews I hired stood by the entrance. Karen rushed over again, this time without sunglasses, without the pastel blazer. You're really doing this? She asked, her voice tight. Yes. You'll ruin our property values. I looked at the asphalt stretching across what used to be wild grass and dirt my father once walked on. No, I said softly. You did that the moment you assumed this land was yours. The remaining cars were towed that afternoon after proper notice. Then the real work began. The asphalt was torn up. The painted lines vanished. The decorative shrubs were removed. Residents watched from their porches as jackhammers shattered the parking lot into rubble. Some looked angry. Some looked embarrassed. Some looked understanding. Within months, the land transformed. Not into another parking lot. Not into spiteful emptiness. But into something intentional. A gated, beautifully landscaped private event space and garden venue. String lights hung between restored oak trees. A small pavilion stood where the HOA sign once had. Wildflowers bloomed along the perimeter. And at the entrance, a modest wooden sign read, Whitmore Gardens. I kept the last name intentionally. When Karen saw it during the opening weekend, her expression was priceless. You named it after me? She snapped. I smiled. No, I named it after my father. Same last name, just different legacy. The venue quickly became popular. Weddings, farmers markets, charity events. The very residents who once parked there now rented the space for birthday parties and community gatherings. At premium rates. And every time Karen drove past the entrance, she had to look at the place she once claimed as hers. 5 years ago, I left town feeling small. I came back to find my land stolen in plain sight. They thought I'd never return. They thought paperwork didn't matter. They thought an HOA logo was stronger than a deed. They had no idea I still owned every inch of it. And they definitely had no idea what I would build on top of their mistake. Prompt 1. A shocked man standing in front of a freshly paved suburban parking lot with a bright yellow, HOA reserved parking, sign, dramatic lighting, cinematic realism. Prompt 2. Suburban HOA president woman in pastel blazer and sunglasses confronting a man in an empty parking lot, tense body language, realistic drama scene. Prompt 3. Close-up of a property deed and tax documents held in a man's hand with police officers in the background, intense atmosphere. Prompt 4. Aerial view of a suburban neighborhood with a parking lot clearly overlapping a separate plot of land outlined in red survey lines. Prompt 5. HOA board meeting inside a modern clubhouse with angry residents arguing, dramatic expressions, cinematic lighting. Prompt 6. Bright orange land survey stakes placed across a paved parking lot, symbolizing legal boundary lines, high detail. Prompt 7. Construction crew using jackhammers to tear up asphalt while suburban residents watch from porches, emotional tension. Prompt 8. Large chunks of broken asphalt piled high with a lone oak tree in the background, symbolic and dramatic. Prompt 9. Beautiful garden event venue with string lights, wooden pavilion, blooming wildflowers at sunset, cinematic and heartwarming.